Hello, my name is Rebecca Ryan. I'm a professional futurist, and in this short video, I want to share with you one of my favorite concepts because it is so critical to being able to think like a futurist. The concept is cognitive bias. What is cognitive bias? Well, I think the easiest way to think of it is that we don't see things as they are. Right? Anais Nin says, we see things as we are. Let me give you an example that happened in my own kitchen recently. My wife and I were both working from home, and we were having lunch together. And it was a kind of a hurried affair for both of us because we were trying to get back to our, regularly scheduled programming. And at one point, my wife picked up a small jar, and it had some brown stuff in it. It was like a pint jar, like a mason jar. And she said, "What is this?" And I was eating my salad, and I pushed all my salad to one side of my mouth, and I said, "Honey." And I kept eating. And then she said, "I don't know why you're so mad at me. It was an honest question." And I just started laughing because I said, "No, it's really honey, like from a bee. It's honey." And then we both cracked up. I share that story because it's familiar to all of us, right? We think we hear something in a way or with a tone or even with words that weren't actually said. What's happening there? Well, what's happening is our brains are filling in the blanks, if you will, or filling in the context, filling in the meaning. We all do this all the time. Our brains are wired to make meaning. We are storytelling animals, as the title of the book says. So what we're doing on a day-to-day basis is we're making stories of the things that are happening around us. In fact, many people believe, the science says, that the reason conspiracy theories occur is because something that happens is so outside of the realm of what seems possible that we have to fill in a story to help it make sense. That's what a conspiracy theory is. So we're doing this to ourselves at all times, filling in meaning between a cause and an effect. We're kind of filling in the story. And if we can accept that, we can also slow ourselves down and try to think more like futurists. Let me tell you about a couple of biases that are very widespread, but that we would all benefit from being able to identify in ourselves and in others as we do strategic foresight work. The first one is confirmation bias. So all of you have something like this, a device in your pocket. Many of you have news feeds on them. And if you have a news source that is your go-to source, you probably know if it's more blue politically, Democratic, or if it's more red politically, Republican. And what's true is if you identify as a Republican or if you identify as a Democrat, you are more likely to get your news from the sources that confirm your own beliefs. This is confirmation bias. All that means is we tend to over-rely on data, information, news that confirms a belief that we already have. Confirmation bias. So as a good futurist, what do we want to do? We want to break out of confirmation bias. We want to think the unthinkable, right? We want to be able to pick up signals no matter where they're occurring in a way that helps us break out of our own heuristics, our own mental ruts. So confirmation bias is one that I see very frequently. Another one that we see very frequently is availability bias. So I'll give you an example. I drink my water out of this giant blue glass every day, or tumbler, I don't know what you'd call it. And I recently lost it. I couldn't find it. I didn't know where it was. And my wife said to me, "Oh, I think it's on our housemate's back patio." And I said, "No, that's not it. That tumbler is purple." And then I realized, if I look closer, or if I'm not looking in the light, maybe I'm seeing purple, but it really is blue. So the next time I looked, I was like, yeah, that's definitely purple. I was looking from about 50 feet away, but it had the correct shape. It had the straw coming out of it. It had the silhouette of exactly my tumbler. But because I had seen it, my eyes had registered it as purple, I thought there's no way it could be mine, right? Availability bias is that whatever we remember, we think is true. So despite the fact that my wife was like, "I saw your tumbler, it is sitting over there on that table," my availability bias that had seen a purple tumbler, despite the fact that it looked just like, same shape, whatever, of my tumbler, I thought there's no way it could be. That's availability bias. When we over rely on what we remember versus what is actually true. And the final bias I love to talk about with strategic futurists like yourselves is the planning fallacy. So if you are a person who is always late for everything because you think, well, this time it won't take me as long through traffic or to get from A to B, you're like me. And we suffer from something called the planning fallacy, where we underestimate the amount of time required to complete something despite all contrary evidence. These three biases, the confirmation bias, availability bias, and the planning fallacy, are three of the most common cognitive biases that affect professional futuring. But with some training, we can check ourselves and help check our teams as we do foresight work. And that's what's required. Because if we build a plan for the future that is only based on how we see the world, we are missing a lot of opportunity. And we're possibly missing a few landmines as well. So overcoming our cognitive bias, it's one of the key tools in the Professional Futurist Toolkit.